Everyone knows the famous Stoic quotes. Focus on what you can control. This too shall pass. Live according to nature. You have seen them on Instagram, on motivational posters, on the lock screens of people who still haven't changed anything about their lives. And here is the uncomfortable truth. The Stoic principles that actually worked, the ones that transformed men under real pressure, are not the ones being shared. They were buried, quietly removed from the conversation because they were too demanding, too precise, too honest for a world that prefers comfort. Today, for the first time, we are bringing them back. 12 Stoic principles that the modern world abandoned, not because they stopped working, but because they required something most people are no longer willing to give. If you are willing, stay with me. What comes next will change how you move through the world. Intro: why these principles disappeared. Before we begin, you need to understand something. The Stoicism you see online today has been edited, softened, made comfortable enough to sell books and get likes. But the original Stoics, Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, Seneca, were not comfortable men. They lived in a world where one wrong decision meant exile. One moment of weakness meant death. One unguarded thought could destroy everything. The principles they developed were not for inspiration, they were for survival. And the 12 you are about to hear, these are the ones that were quietly left behind. Let us begin. Principle 1. Amor fati. Love what happens, not just accept it. Love it. Everyone talks about accepting what you cannot change. But the Stoics went further, much further. They called it amor fati, love of fate. Not tolerance, not acceptance, not moving on. Love, the deliberate, active choice to not just endure what happens to you, but to want it. To look at the worst thing that ever happened to you and say, this was necessary, this was mine, this made me. Marcus Aurelius wrote, accept the things to which fate binds you, not reluctantly, not gritting your teeth, with open hands. Asterisk, real-life scenario. Think about the hardest thing that happened to you in the last 3 years. The loss, the failure, the betrayal. Now ask yourself honestly, who were you before it and who did it force you to become? Most people, when they answer that honestly, realize the thing they most wanted to undo was also the thing that built them most. Amor fati is not pretending the pain didn't exist. It is understanding that the pain was part of the design. Your design. Asterisk, tonight's practice. Write down one painful thing from your past. Then write 3 ways it made you stronger, smarter, or more real. Not to forgive it. To own it. Principle 2. Sympathia. You are connected to everything. The forgotten Stoic view of the world. This is the principle almost no modern Stoic channel discusses, and it may be the most important one. The Stoics believed in something called sympathia, the idea that everything in the universe is deeply, fundamentally connected, that your actions, no matter how small, send ripples through everything around you, that how you treat the person in front of you right now matters at a level far beyond what you can see. Marcus Aurelius wrote, what injures the hive, injures the bee. Most people today live as if they are separate from everything, isolated, self-contained, their choices affecting no one but themselves. The Stoics considered this one of the most dangerous illusions a mind could hold. As real-life scenario, think about the last time you were short with someone, a family member, a colleague, a stranger. You moved on immediately, forgot about it within minutes. But that person carried it, maybe for hours. Maybe it changed the mood of every interaction they had that day. And those interactions changed the people around them. You never saw it, but it happened. Sympathia asks you to live as if everything you do is being done to the whole, because it is. Asterisk, tonight's practice. Asterisk, tomorrow. Pick one interaction, one person. Give them your complete undivided presence, not your half attention, not your distracted nod, your full humanity. Notice what happens. Principle 3. Kathinken, your duty in this moment. The Stoic principle of appropriate action. The Stoics had a concept almost entirely absent from modern self-help. They called it kathinken, the appropriate action. Not the perfect action, not the optimal action. The right action for this exact moment, given who you are, what you have, and where you stand. Most people spend their lives waiting to act until conditions are perfect, until they are ready, until they have more information, until the fear goes away. The Stoics considered this a form of cowardice dressed as patience. Epictetus said, "Do not seek for things to happen the way you want them to. Wish that what happens actually happens, and you will have a tranquil flow of life." Asterisk, real-life scenario. Think about something you have been postponing, not because you can't do it, because you are waiting for the right moment, the right feeling, the right circumstances. The Stoics would ask you one question: what is the appropriate action available to you right now, with exactly what you have, not tomorrow, not when you are ready, right now? Ask. Tonight's practice. Identify one thing you have been postponing. Take one action on it tonight, not the whole thing, just one step. The Stoics believed that action creates clarity, not the other way around. Principle 4. Prohairesis, the one thing that is truly yours, not your will, the last unconquerable territory. This is the principle Epictetus built his entire life on, and he built it under chains. Prohairesis, your capacity to choose how you respond to anything, not what happens to you, not what others do, not the circumstances you are born into, just this, your response. Epictetus was a slave. He had no money, no freedom, no status, no rights, and he said, no one can touch prohairesis. No one, because it lives in a place no external force can reach. Asterisk, real-life scenario. Think about the last time someone made you angry. In that moment, you felt like you had no choice, like the anger just happened to you. But here is what Epictetus would tell you. Between what they did and how you responded, there was a space. It may have been a fraction of a second, but it was there, and in that space, you had a choice. You always have a choice. That choice is prohairesis, and no one ever can take it from you. Tonight's practice, ask. The next time you feel a reaction rising, anger, anxiety, irritation, stop. Count to 3. And ask, what do I choose to do with this? Not what should I do, what do I choose? The difference is everything. Principle 5 v. Quote, eudaimonia, the goal was never happiness. What the Stoics were actually chasing. Here is something almost everyone gets wrong about Stoic philosophy. The Stoics were not chasing happiness. They did not believe happiness was a worthy goal. What they pursued was eudaimonia. And it is not the same thing. Happiness is a feeling. It comes and goes. It depends on what happens to you. Eudaimonia is a state of being, a deep, consistent alignment between who you are and how you live. It is what you feel, not when things go right, but when you act in complete integrity with your deepest values, even when it costs you, especially when it costs you. Ask real-life scenario. Think about a time you did the right thing when doing the wrong thing would have been easier. Maybe no one saw it. Maybe no one praised you for it. But remember how it felt afterward. That quiet, that stillness, that sense of being exactly who you intended to be. That was eudaimonia, not happiness. Something more solid, something that doesn't disappear when circumstances change. Ask. Tonight's practice. Ask yourself one honest question. Am I living in alignment with who I actually want to be? Not who others want you to be? Not who you perform being? Who you actually are when no one is watching? Write the answer. Be honest. Principle 6. Apatheia, the most misunderstood Stoic word. It has nothing to do with not caring. If there is one Stoic principle the modern world has completely destroyed, it is this one. Apatheia, translated into English as apathy, And that translation has caused more confusion than almost any other word in philosophy. Apatheia does not mean not caring. It does not mean emotional numbness, coldness, disconnection. It means freedom from being controlled by your emotions. There is a profound difference. You can feel everything, the joy, the grief, the love, the loss, and still not be governed by it. Still choose your response. Still act from reason. Still remain yourself inside the storm. Asterisk, real-life scenario. Think about the last time an emotion made a decision for you. Anger said something you spent days wishing you could take back. Fear stopped you from doing something you knew was right. Anxiety kept you awake solving problems that didn't exist yet. That is the opposite of apatheia. Apatheia is not the absence of those feelings. It is the ability to feel them fully and still choose. Asterisk, tonight's practice. The next time a strong emotion arrives, don't fight it. Don't suppress it. Just watch it for 30 seconds before you act on it. 30 seconds. That is the entire practice, and it will change everything. Morsharim. Tellus 7. Millet. The practice nobody does. The Stoic habit of mental rehearsal. The Stoics did not just think about philosophy, they rehearsed it every single day. They called it milletus, deliberate mental practice, not reading about how to handle difficulty, not understanding it intellectually, actually sitting down and rehearsing it, running through difficult scenarios in the mind, practicing the response, building the reflex before the moment arrives, because the Stoics understood something modern psychology has since confirmed. The mind cannot tell the difference between a vividly imagined experience and a real one. If you rehearse calm, you will find calm. If you rehearse panic, you will find panic. Asterisk, real-life scenario. Think about the last time something caught you completely off guard. A conversation that went wrong. A criticism you weren't prepared for. A moment that demanded more than you had ready. Now, imagine you had rehearsed it. Not the exact scenario, but the state, the calm, the clarity, the measured response. How differently might it have gone? Ask. Tonight's practice. Ask. Before you sleep tonight, think of one difficult situation you might face this week. Spend 3 minutes mentally rehearsing how you want to handle it. Not what you want to say, how you want to be. Calm, clear, grounded. Run it through 3 times, then sleep. Twerk. Pinnacle 8. Sympathetic joy, the Stoic antidote to envy. The principle that protects your peace. This one will surprise you, because it sounds more like an Eastern philosophy than a Western one. But the Stoics practiced it with great deliberateness. The active cultivation of joy at the success of others, not tolerance of their success, not indifference to it, genuine pleasure. Because the Stoics understood something about envy that most people never examine. Envy is not about the other person. Envy is your mind telling you that their success somehow diminishes yours. And that is a lie. A precise, corrosive, exhausting lie that costs you peace every single day. Asterisk, real-life scenario. Think about the last time someone in your circle succeeded, got the promotion, launched the business, achieved what you were working toward. What happened inside you? For most people, there is a flicker, a small tightening. Even toward people they love, that flicker is envy, and it is eating your energy silently. The Stoic practice is simple. When someone succeeds, find one genuine reason to be glad for them. Just one, real, not performed. And notice how the flicker begins to lose its power. Reach tonight's practice. Think of someone whose success has caused you even mild envy. Write one genuine reason their success is good. Not for them, for the world, for you. Pinnacle 9. Ascesis, voluntary discomfort. Why the Stoics chose difficulty on purpose. The Stoics did something that sounds almost irrational to the modern mind. They chose difficulty when ease was available. They called it ascesis, voluntary hardship. Seneca would occasionally eat the simplest food available, wear rough clothing, sleep on the floor, not because he had to remind himself that he could. Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome, a man who could have anything, wrote about deliberately choosing discomfort to strengthen the mind. Because the Stoics understood something we have almost entirely forgotten: comfort, chosen constantly, does not make life better. It makes the mind weaker. It makes the culty, when it inevitably arrives, feel catastrophic. A scenario. Think about the last time something mildly uncomfortable happened. The Wi-Fi was slow. The food wasn't right. Plans changed unexpectedly. How did you respond? Now think about someone who regularly chooses discomfort, who wakes up early when they could sleep, who does hard things when easy things are available. When difficulty actually arrives, it barely registers for them, because they have been practicing difficulty all along. As can types practice, choose one small discomfort tomorrow. Wake up 30 minutes earlier. Take a cold shower. Skip one comfort you reach for automatically, not forever, just tomorrow, and notice how capable you already are. Principle 10, koinonia, the Stoic duty to others. The principle selfish self-help never mentions. Modern self-improvement is almost entirely about the individual, your mindset, your growth, your success, your peace. The Stoics would have found this deeply incomplete. They believed in koinonia, the duty of every human being to contribute to the whole, not as charity, not as performance of virtue, as a fundamental obligation of being human. Marcus Aurelius returned to this again and again. We were born to work together, like feet, like hands, like eyelids, like the rows of upper and lower teeth. The Stoics believed that a life lived only for oneself was a life half-lived. Ask, real-life scenario. Think about the last time you did something genuinely for someone else, not for recognition, not to feel good about yourself, not transactionally, just because they needed it, and you could give it. Remember how that felt, that feeling, that quiet, solid sense of having been useful. The Stoics considered that one of the highest forms of human experience. Ask, tonight's practice, tomorrow do one thing for someone else that requires something from you, time, energy, attention, something real, something that costs you something, and do it without telling anyone. Principle 11, logos, the universe has order. The Stoic belief that gave them unshakable calm. This is the deepest principle on this list, and the one most difficult to explain in a short time, but it is essential. The Stoics believed in something they called logos, a rational order underlying everything, a principle of reason woven into the structure of the universe itself. And their belief in logos gave them something almost nothing else can give: the genuine conviction that whatever is happening, however chaotic, however painful, however unfair, is part of a rational whole, not random, not meaningless, not pointless, part of a structure larger than any individual can see. Real-life scenario. Think about the moment in your life that felt most senseless, the loss that had no reason, the failure that seemed completely undeserved, the collapse that came from nowhere. Now, years later, can you see any thread of meaning in it? Any way in which that apparently senseless thing led to something real? Most people, honestly, can. The Stoics built their peace on the trust that meaning exists even when it cannot yet be seen. Tonight's practice. Think of one thing in your life right now that feels chaotic or unfair. Ask, what if this is exactly where I'm supposed to be? What might that mean? You don't need an answer. Just sit with the question. Principle 12, the inner citadel, the final fortress. The last principle, the one that contains all others. Marcus Aurelius had a phrase he returned to more than almost any other. He called it the inner citadel, the fortress inside the self that no external force can breach, unless you open the gates. Not strength, not power, not intelligence. A place of absolute inner sovereignty built brick by brick, through every principle we have discussed, through amor fati, owning everything that happens, through proaresis, choosing every response, through apatheia, feeling without being controlled, through millet, rehearsing until calm becomes reflex, through koinonia, remaining connected to something larger, through all 12, brick by brick, a place inside you that the world simply cannot reach. Real life scenario. Think about the most grounded person you have ever known. Not the loudest, not the most confident in the room. The most grounded, the person who, when everything around them was falling apart, seemed to have something inside them that wasn't moving. That was the inner citadel. You have seen it in someone, which means you know it is real, which means you know it can be built. Tonight's practice. Ask yourself, what would I need to do, starting tonight, to begin building that? You already know the answer. You have always known. Slow sing final 60 seconds, 12 principles, not 12 quotes, not 12 ideas to like and forget, 12 practices, 12 daily choices, 12 ways of building something inside yourself that the world cannot touch. The Stoics did not promise that life would become easy. They never made that promise. What they promised was this, that you could become someone for whom difficulty was no longer a catastrophe, someone who moves through the world not at the mercy of it, but with eyes open, response chosen, inner citadel intact. These 12 principles didn't disappear because they failed. They disappeared because they demanded something real from the people who practiced them. The question is not whether they work. The question is, are you willing to let them? If the answer is yes, you know where to begin. Tonight, one principle, one practice, one brick. The citadel builds itself, one day at a time.